Hi, you guys. It is I, Becca Lori Hector, here with the unlive version of Being Becca Live, right? Okay, so this has happened before, and you guys know that I do my very, very darndest to make sure that I keep us on a really good schedule and that as we make plans or as things are happening, I kind of let you know what's going on. Well, last time I couldn't do Being Becca Live was because I had to go to the doctor. And guess what, you guys? This time it's the same reason. Remember, I had gone and I went and I got started on some things that I'm worried about in terms of my health, my stomach in particular, some other things. Um, and that was 2 weeks ago. And one of the things that I need to be taking some tests for is tomorrow. So I have kind of a large-ish appointment tomorrow with the doctor. On Thursday, or rather, with the doctor. So that's one reason that I'm not going to be able to do a live stream. And then the other reason is that, as you know, you guys, I work at the vet's office, and so I have to cover for someone on Wednesday. So today, as I'm sitting here right now recording, it is Tuesday, but as you are sitting there watching, hopefully, it's Wednesday. And this is going to be premiering when we would usually do live stream. So, in order to make it up to you and make it a little bit more exciting, that I'm just uploading a video, right? Try and make it a little bit more enticing to you guys, right? I thought that I would maybe tackle something that I've never really done before on this channel and isn't something that I usually do. Rather, on this platform, I should say. It's something that I do all the time when I do speaking engagements. So right here, right now, on this week's Being Becca Live, which is where we usually talk about the challenges of being an autistic adult alive right now, we will be instead doing an AMAA. And I say that because it's not an Ask Me Anything, it's an Ask Me Almost Anything. As you guys know, there's only one topic I really won't talk about, and that is my current sex life out of respect for Antonio. So that's why the almost. Other than that, I figured I'd answer all of your questions and I'd give you at least a fun one for us to talk about afterwards on the next live. At least it'll be a good, fun, juicy one for to keep you occupied while I'm busy at work and at the doctor. And then, of course, I'll be here on Sunday with Growing Gratitude, and then I will be live, and then I can update you on the day at work as well as the doctor's appointment, on all other fun things that have kind of been going on around my life. But let's not waste any further time, shall we? Let us get into this AMAA. A bunch of you asked questions. I don't want to make it crazy long, so I picked some light questions, some heavy questions, and I'm just going to answer, like, I think there are 10 or something left, maybe even less, maybe 8 of them that I'm going to answer for you guys today. And if you enjoy it, let me know in the comments. Let me know with your thumbs up. Let me know with your shares, because I'll do another one. Right? I have no problem doing what works for us again and again. So if you enjoy this kind of thing and you have questions but didn't have the courage to ask this go around, let me know with your views and shares and comments, and I could do another one. All right, let's get into it, right? Let's get right to your questions. So I have them in no particular order, just kind of the order they came in and like the order that I took the screenshots, because that's how I literally keep notes. When I see you guys make comments, I take a screenshot of those questions so that I can save them for later. So let's start with this one. How did you meet the world famous Antonio Hector and win each other's hearts? I love this question. It's really kind of a fun one. It's interesting. My answer to this question has changed over time. I just want you to know that. When Antonio and I met, so it's almost 6 years ago now that we met. And at that time, I was sort of really busy in advocacy world, and I was still working in nonprofit land. And what I was doing was working on a really local nonprofit to me. And at that time, we had a big event coming up, and it was our big fundraiser of the year that was coming up. And so I was tasked as somebody who was doing outreach and community stuff and helping with the event to come up with some raffle prizes. So that's a really common thing that people do at fundraisers, right? Everybody, you get prizes donated from various and sundry places, and then people kind of put in some dollars to sort of get their chance at winning these prizes, right? So you get your sort of traditional prizes. People give gift cards to restaurants and stores and sometimes to Amazon and things like that. But I wanted to do something really cool. And the event that we're doing every year is an event based around bowling. So it's a bowling event. And so what I thought I would do is head over to my tattoo artist at the time, the ones who did this sleeve and this sleeve, um, and ask them if they would each in their own version of tattooing in their own artist style, right? Um, Decorate a ball, right? Using the logo of this organization and anything else that they wanted to use surrounding it. Great. So that was the project. So went on. I picked up the balls. We went to the event. The event is happening. And of course, when people win, and you always want to give shout outs on the internet to the people who donated, to, the people who won, all of these things, right? So that it's a successful event. Okay. So I take a picture with the bowling ball so I can post something on the internet and say thank you to my tattoo artist so much for doing this donation, right? And that the people who won and blah, 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 it was a great day and all of that stuff, right? So I take that picture, I post it on my timeline, and I tag my tattoo place. I think nothing of it. Okay. Well, a couple of days later, it had activity, and all of a sudden I noticed that it got a like from someone who I don't really know, right? And I thought, oh, well, maybe, I don't know how I know this person, but it's such a strange thing, right? A name I didn't recognize, face I didn't recognize, and I just thought that was strange because the autism world is so small. And so I thought, well, how is somebody that I don't know, like from what place? And then, I went and I did some researching and I went, oh, we share the tattoo place in common. That's so cool, right? And so we sort of just started, when I went to go look and see how I knew him, he had made some comment about 80s music, and I made a comment back. And then we reached out, and just like it happens on Facebook, we became Facebook friends and we chatted. And then eventually he asked me out on a date. And I have to tell you guys that, excuse me, I was 39 at the time, I think, or 40 at the time. No, I turned 40 while we were dating. So I was 39 at the time. And it was my very first real date. It was the first time I'd ever been asked on a real date. It was the first time that I was meeting someone for a date, right? I'd always sort of ended up dating people I was friends with or shared a work circle with or somehow met through some social way and then began dating them. I'd never really been asked on a date by anybody. And so right away, it was different. Right away, the stakes were different. And I was at that time, just at the very beginning of my self-defined living journey, just beginning all of this mindfulness stuff, and just figuring out that it worked. And so right away, my buzzers went off because I was like, oh, this is different. This is going different than anything else has gone in my life. So let me take the risk. It's probably worth it, right? And so I took the risk and I said yes. And when it came down to it, he had ended up asking me out. And the date of our first date was actually my mom's birthday. And so this was just not even a full year since she passed when this all happened. So it was all very magical, and it had these sprinklings of universe magic all over it. And that was how it happened. And we started dating, and so is the story. Moved in together, got married, moved to Colorado, the whole thing. And that's how it is. And so I didn't used to tell people that whole story because it was kind of at that time still vaguely embarrassing to meet and start dating someone off of Facebook, right? It was sort of really strange. And so we used to just say we met through our tattoo place, which is true. It wasn't a lie. It was just a very softened version of how it is that we actually got together and all of those things. So that is that story. Fun times. And yeah, here we are all of these years later. Our wedding anniversary just passed. Next question. When do you plan on buying a goat? Because you are one. And so that one. When do I plan on buying a goat? Not. I don't. Here's why, you guys. I used to really think it would be so fun that when I moved up here, we would have all of these farm animals. But two things have happened, or three things really have happened since we've moved up here that have changed how I look at that stuff. So the first thing is that we have more animals of our own. I now have two more dogs now than we had when we moved out here. So that is one of the things. There's only so many animals that and two more cats, and two more dogs than we had when we moved out here. So I just feel like I'm at a limit for caregiving on animals at this moment, right? And taking on a new species that I've never cared for would be an entirely other venture, right? And so that's part of the reason. The next reason is, and this is as honest as I can be about it, they smell. Farm animals really do smell, and it's not. Some people get used to it, and some people say when you bring them in your home or whatever, they don't smell. But I will tell you that they smell. And the one that surprised me the most for big old smell is a chicken coop. It really smells in there, man. I didn't realize that. And so, as someone who's super sensitive to smells, I don't think that I can handle the smell of farm animals or a lot of them around me. And the third thing that has affected this decision about farm animals is that I now work at the vet's office and I have now had to handle goats, pigs, chickens. And not only can I tell you that up close they also smell, but I can tell you that they're not so easy to work with a lot of times. Chickens are easy, actually. I was surprised by how easy it is to work on chickens, but not so much goats and sheep. And so I'm out of that game. That is it for me. And so there's actually a fourth concern, which is just a generalized concern from living up here, is that anytime you have any kind of domesticated animals living outside of your house, we have mountain lion and bear and things like that, and coyotes and wolverines and different kinds of animals that come around and disturb that peace. And so I'm not so hype on that whole situation anymore. But I do think goats are adorable, and I want to say that really I like them from afar at this point because I've seen the reality. There is one exception to this entire circle of conversation, and that is silky chickens. If you don't know what a silky chicken looks like, please do yourself a favor. Go out there and Google silky chickens because, you guys, they are hilarious looking. And when you see them in real life and you touch them, they are as soft as they look. So, they do well if you bring them inside in certain things. And so that is the one remaining farm animal that I will still consider. And that is a silky chicken. So go take a look at that. But thanks for the question. Alrighty. Next question. Okay. What are some good fiction books you have read recently? I've been ordering audiobooks from the library and I love that I can read again. Books aren't super reason are easiest to get. Okay, so I love a good old fiction book, and I don't know why, because usually my brain likes documentaries, and I do read nonfiction, right? But I love a good old fiction book for the mental escape. It was before we had cell phones. Carrying a book around was the way that I survived out in the world, and made it through a lot of scenarios. So I do read a lot still. And I'm ready with some fiction book recommendations for you. In fact, I want to take a peek in my Kindle so that I don't give you a bad recommendation. I just want to remember the ones that I'm reading currently and the authors and all of that stuff. So I'm going to peek away in my Kindle. Okay, so I read some really good ones recently. Two ones that I'm really into Japanese authors lately. I like Japanese and Canadian authors a lot. If you're not somebody who can handle the sometimes poor translation of the Japanese into English, don't listen to some of these recommendations. But I really loved, I don't even know if I can pronounce her name correctly, but Sayaka Murata. And it's spelled Murata is her last name. And she wrote two books that are so autistically coded, like you'll die, roll over, and die. They are not that new, so you might be able to get them on audiobook. And they are called Convenience Store Woman, and the other one is called Earthlings. I recommend both of them. I read them back to back. I read Earthlings first, and I loved it so much that I went and I got the other one. So that is two that I recommend. One that I just finished that I cannot stop thinking about. Like literally, I can't stop thinking about this book in almost every scenario as I'm doing things. And it's by Matt Haig, and his last name is spelled Haig, Matt Haig. And it's called The Midnight Library. And it was just it's like a philosophical fiction book. That I'm also into those books lately. And I really enjoy his writing. I'm probably going to read some others by him, but this one was really A good one. This is a good one. So it's called The Midnight Library. Um, let's see. I can't remember the author's last name of this one, and I have to go looking in my library to find it. But Under the Skin, really creepy book. It's like a creepy fiction book, but also a commentary on humanity and also a philosophical book. So I can't remember the author's name on that one, but please go check that one out too. And the one I am currently reading right now that I'm on the fence about. Like, I like it. I kind of want to know how it ends, but I'm sort of like, can this book be over already? So it maybe needed some editing better than it got. I don't know, but I'm still going to recommend it because I'm interested in it enough to finish it. And that one is called Remainder by Tom McCarthy. So those are some good fiction books that I've read recently that I recommend to you. One of my all-time favorite fiction books that I recommend all the time to people, and I recommend this. It's really an older one, and it's an old Oprah's pick, like from 10-15 years ago, Oprah's pick. And I love this book because I feel like no matter what kind of book you usually read, this one is a really gripping book. I really, really loved it. It's called Fall on Your Knees, and it is by Anne Marie, right? What is her last name? I don't even think I have it here, but it's called Fall on Your Knees. And I think it's Anne Marie McCarthy. So go check that one out as well. That's an older recommendation that I have for you, but I loved that one. If you like books that have romance, if you like books that have historical fiction, if you like books that are kind of like literature, if you like books that are about generations of families, books that are about some of the darker stuff in life that we don't talk about, I would go and check out that book. So those are my fiction recommendations. I hope that you enjoy them, and I hope that you do go and read some of these. And if you do go and read some of them, feel free to email me or reach out to me on YouTube or reach out to me on any of my other social media. Let's talk books. I'd be happy to. Absolutely, yo. That'd be so much fun. All right, back to questions. Next questions. Do you like to watch any of the Olympic Games or any sport? I love watching the gymnastics. Okay. I am a big fan of the Olympic sports. I don't watch regular sports that much. I used to watch a lot of baseball. I was a really big baseball fan, but since I've moved to Colorado, I've sort of really just, I don't know, let that go. It's not something that I really follow anymore. In the Olympics, I am a big fan of watching a couple of things. In the Winter Olympics, I watch the ice skating like nobody's business. I really, really, really love the ice skating. And sometimes I will watch some of the skiing, but that's not really my deal in the Winter Olympics. I like the ice skating is my favorite in that. In the other Olympics, gymnastics, yes, watch that too. But I love the swimming. I was a swimmer. I love swimming. I love the water. I haven't gone swimming in a really long time, but I love watching the swimmers. I will watch the swimmers, the divers, anything that's around the water, and I will watch that in the Summer Olympics. So, and the gymnastics, I will watch, of course. And that's about it for me and the Olympics and sports and all of that stuff. I've not ever really been a very coordinated person. So I have to be able to enjoy it for itself, not because it's something that I do and I enjoy that sport myself. So that's my answer to that one. That was a fun one. Don't really think about that a lot. Let's see. Okay. I think we are entering into the more heavy questions now. Okay. What is something you are proud of that you feel other people might not realize is a big deal to you? I am proud of a lot of things that I think nobody would think is a big deal. Or people think, what was the question? Not that other people might not realize is a big deal to me. And I think that's a lot of things because A, I'm autistic, and B, I've had a really, let's be honest, I've had a very trauma-filled life. And with that, it means that I haven't had a lot of moments where I've been proud really of a lot of things. So I sort of always separate my life into before diagnosis and after diagnosis because I feel like I had two different lifetimes. So before diagnosis, I think the thing that I am most proud of that people don't realize I'm proud of at all is the fact that I left law school. I know that sounds really weird, but I was stuck in a supposed to pattern, right? I went to college because you're supposed to. I picked a major because you're supposed to. I tried to pick one that I could have a job in, right? All of that stuff. But none of that worked out for me because my brain doesn't work like that. So I ended up as a double major in philosophy and religious studies, and I minored in environmental science and biology because I was interested in environmental law and I was interested in how things work. So I thought for a really long time growing up that I would do that the mysteries I wanted to solve were medical mysteries. But the more I found out that I was bad at math, and the more people told me that I would need the math to get through those things, I stopped looking at it and I started to look at other things. And I had always had a love of words, and that's how I kind of ended up in philosophy land and thinking about the morals and ethics and the rightness and wrongness of things. My autistic brain loves to talk about that and think about that. And so philosophy was a really huge part of my life. And when I was graduating my undergraduate degree, I was really put in an odd position as an autistic person, right? I was told that I would never really make money as a philosopher. You just don't get paid to do that. Because what philosophers really are people who love to study and read and talk about the things they study and read and write about the things that they study and read. And nobody wants to pay you to do that in today's world. And so the outward message to me was, you better figure out something to do after you graduate, right? That will make you money so you can live. And philosophy is not it. So what I was getting in terms of advice was, you can do one of two things, Beck. You can go to graduate school and get your master's and PhD, and then you can teach philosophy to other people who will not make money by studying philosophy, or you can go to law school. Ooh, okay. Well, that presented an academic challenge to me, an informational, intellectual challenge for me. And as you guys know, that gets my brain going, right? So, as it does for many autistics. So it began in that last year to really focus on getting into law school, studying for the law school exam, all of that stuff. And so there was a lot of work and a lot of pressure, and of course a lot of family members who supported my decision, were so proud I was going to go to law school. Then I got into law school and I had to pick one because I had choices and all of this crazy stuff that as an autistic person makes us crash and burn, right? We have to make these decisions. We have to hold our shit together. All blah 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 blah. And so even though I was pretty sure I didn't want to do law, practice law, I went into it because I knew at least people would leave me alone if I made that choice, right? And I could fake my way through it, and I could this and I could that. But I hated it, you guys. I hated it so much. From the moment that I started, I would have these emotional responses, these emotional crying fits. And that, you guys, I know now, were overwhelm and meltdowns, right? That's what was happening. I was overwhelmed and I was having meltdowns because I wasn't following my gut. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And in a moment of pure clarity that I would not see again for another decade and a half, I was sitting in law school, and they literally say to you, look at the person to your left, look at the person to your right. One of you won't be here next year. They really do say that. And in that moment, I looked to the person to my left and I looked to the person to my right, and I thought, I don't want to be either of you. I hope it's me. I hope I'm the one that's not here in the next year. And in that moment, when I said that to myself, I literally got up out of my chair, walked out of the room, and went down to financial aid to try and stop the checks because I didn't want to owe anybody money, and I walked out. And to this day, I'm still proud of myself for honoring that piece of myself in that moment when I had no knowledge about anything that was going on for me. And I did, and I got up and I left. So pre-diagnosis, that is something that I'm proud of, that people don't realize I'm proud of, ever. And I am proud of that because it was a moment of clarity in an otherwise awful, awful, awful time of my life. And so that is one. And then I think a lot, maybe not as many people realize as but some people realize, because I talk about it, the thing that I'm most proud of post-diagnosis is home ownership. It is that and owning and running my own successful business. Those are the two ones that I'm proud of the most, because they came to fruition out of a journey through trauma and out of a journey into a diagnosis, and years and years and years of emotional labor, you guys. The work to get here, the work to be able to teach the work to somebody else was huge. And when I think about the fact that I own and run my own successful business, and I'm doing it again with Antonio elsewhere, and then I think about the fact that I'm running it from an office in a home that I own, in a place that I am so proud to call home because I got myself out, right? I built this life. And though I am so proud of it. I don't care if people judge it. I don't care if people don't like me for it. I don't care what the comments are that surround it. I love it. And I am so proud of myself for the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into the work that got me here, and allows me to teach the work. And so that's the thing I'm most proud of now post-diagnosis. Ooh, good question. Another juicy one, and a kind of serious one. And I saved another juicy one, a serious one for the end here also. And this one is two questions actually. The first one is, what is your favorite own voices book? So hashtag own voices is when we talk about books that are written by people who are the stakeholders, who are the community, who are that. So when we talk about it in the autism community and we talk about hashtag own voices, we mean the voices of autistics, the voices of other autistic people who have taken the time to write their journeys down. The first thing that I want to say to you, what is your favorite own voices book, either fiction or nonfiction, by an autistic writer? And so I'm going to do it separately, because to me, fiction and nonfiction are two very separate categories. And as a writer, I need to respect both categories. And so what I recommend in terms of own voices for fiction, I'm going straight to Chris Bonello and straight to the Underdog series. Yes, it's YA, but I still think it's one of the best written fiction books with autistic characters that we have out there. And not only is there one, but there's three, and I love them, and I think they're great, and I send them out to clients, and I recommend them to people all the time with kids, and even for those of us who are adults that will honor the fact that we enjoy reading YA sometimes, like myself. So that is my fiction book recommendation in terms of own voices. In terms of own voices nonfiction, I'm giving two out here because I have to. My first one goes to Spectrum Women right there. That one I recommend all the time, not just because I am one of the authors, but because it was written by 15 own voices. 15 own voices make up that book, in which we share our stories with you and our how we were functioning through, how we're dealing with certain topics post-diagnosis, the what now, right? And yes, it's called Spectrum Women, but I have heard from many non-binary folk, from many folk out in the LGBTQIA community, and many folk who are actually of the male persuasion, but really identify with the female prototype of autism. And we're going to get rid of a lot of that stuff. And I don't even like talking about it that way. But what I'm meaning to say is, I'm not trying to say it's by women authors for women. That's not true. I think parents can learn from this book. I think partners and spouses can learn from this book. I think teachers and educators can learn from it. And I love that it's not one voice through the whole book, but a multitude of voices that make up the book. That's one of my favorite things about it. My other recommendations for non-fiction in the realm of own voices, this one is a really one that's just close to my heart, and I think I will recommend it till my dying day, because it just, I don't know, it changed my life. And so my other nonfiction shout out goes to Leanne Holiday Wiley, who wrote, oh my God, how could I forget the name of her book right now as I'm sitting here? That is so terrible. I haven't read it in such a long time. Oh, Leanne, it's both of your books, really. And so I recommend that you go look at it. Why can I not? Am I blanking on? This is embarrassing that I'm blanking on. Pretending to be normal. There it is. I knew it would scroll around and come back out of the Rolodex. Pretending to be Normal by Leanne Holiday Wiley is my other nonfiction recommendation in terms of own voices. Because for me, that's one that's close to my heart. That's the one that I read first. It's the one that let me know I wasn't alone. It's the one that spoke to me most. And it's one of, historically, for our community, it's one of our earlier advocates who shared their stories. And so when you sit there and you remember that we can talk about autism as freely as we can talk about it now, there were people that came before us that are making that possible. And Leanne is one of them. And so that's my other recommendation in terms of own voices books. Yay. Great question. And the next one of these two questions is, what area of self-defined living do you find most challenging personally, right? On a personal level. There are so many, you guys. The reason that we talk about them and the reason I teach about them is because they are so fucking challenging all the time, all of the parts of it. I think the parts that I am struggling with the most right now, because of course I struggled with all of them at some point or another. The one that I continue to struggle with right now is the whole balance piece, maintaining that balance, right? How do I keep my hands in all the things that I want to be doing because they bring me purpose and they fulfill me as a person? How do I do all of that and still create a balance where I'm taking care of myself and taking care of my responsibilities and taking care of those things, right? I think I will probably struggle with that forever. I think that's something that probably all humans struggle with in adulthood. But for me, that balance is so essential, and I'm so easily put off balance, and it's so much work to get yourself back in balance, right? And so keeping that balance, keeping that anti roller coaster, right? Keeping that really nice balance is the piece that I continue to struggle with. Because life will always be changing. And so I will always need to be shifting things to keep the balance, right? And when we don't pay attention, that's when we get off balance. And when things are going through transitions, we get off balance. And as you guys know, I've been in a transition for the last, I don't know how many years, 3, 4, I don't know. And so it's a lot of that. It's a lot of making sure that I keep the balance a priority and keeping my eye on it, because I know that's the thing that keeps me out of shutdown and out of burnout and out of meltdowns and all of those things, is having that really good balance. And so that's my answer to that question. And that, you guys, was it. That were the cream of the crop questions that I got for the AMAA. And so I thank you guys for taking the time to think of them and put them out to me. And let me share other parts of myself with you other than just the autism parts. And I would love to do this again. I actually had more fun doing it than I thought that I would. So you guys send me more questions. If there's interest, I'll do another one in like a month. I don't care. And I'm really comfortable sharing a lot of things with you guys here on the interwebs, because my vulnerability is what I practice all the time, my authenticity. And so I will answer your questions. The only ones, again, that I won't, the almost, is about my current sex life, because I just don't think it's respectful. So yeah, thank you guys for spending some time. I hope that this is a good replacement for Being Becca Live, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And so I hope you'll tell me. And the way that I know is if you give me some thumbs up. Those are the ones that tell me whether the content is good and I should keep doing it. So they mean a ton to me. Your shares mean a ton to me. When you tell other people to subscribe to my channel, it means a ton to me. Your comments mean a ton to me. So please let me know and give me some feedback on today's video and what you thought. Other than that, you guys, I will be back on Sunday with Growing Gratitude Live, and of course I will be back next Wednesday with the next Being Becca Live. I'm excited because I have a really good topic for the next live. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you what happens at the doctor on Sunday. We'll see. Until then, you guys, I love your feedback. I love hearing from you. So please feel free to leave me a comment wherever you're seeing this video. And of course, feel free to head over to my website at beccalaurie.com and go ahead and check out the course, which is going live in September. Check out my social media, check out my writing, check out all that stuff over there. And while you're there, you can, of course, use the contact page, which sends an email directly to me. And the other way, of course, is to email me at info@beccalaurie.com. All that stuff is below. So I hope you've enjoyed this little AMAA, and I hope to be doing another one soon. Until then, I hope you guys get out there and seek joy, create joy, and share joy, all the joys. And I will see you back right here on Sunday for Growing Gratitude. Have a good one, you guys. Bye.